Welcome back to Why Blank Lost. I'm David Bloomberg, and we have a doozy this week as my co-host Jessica Lewis and I have to explain why Jenny lost after that tribal council.
Yeah, and that's a great way to put it. That tribal council. It is quite a discussion that we're going to have to get through all of that.
I know when I was watching, I was just saying, oh, fudge. How are we going to deal with this shiz? So, but yes, more than a few people have reached out on social media to wonder how we would figure this out when a lot of it can apparently be ascribed to bad decisions made by other people.
Some people that might be certain other people's winning picks.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. But this is not the first time someone has gone out, at least in part, because of the actions of others. And there's almost always something we find the person in question could have done differently. To do that, of course, we will compare Jenny's game to the rules for winning that I originally wrote way back after season 1 and have been updating ever since. We'll look at all the non-spoiler information available to us from what we saw on TV, interviews, social media, and secret scenes. As far as the rules, I swear I'm close to getting the season 42 version up on the website. But until then, you can still see 41 at our dedicated page, robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed.
Yes, you should definitely check it out. It's a long read if you are interested in a long read.
Yes. Bedtime stories. You could just read, a chapter a day to your kids.
By the time they become old enough to go on to Survivor, it'll be like Survivor season, I don't know, 63 at that point. And yeah, they'll be ready to go.
Yes, exactly. Now, as usual, we do have a few things to discuss before we get to the rules. If we don't happen to get as in-depth here as you'd like, listeners, that's okay, because the two of us will be guest professors on the Survivor Academy podcast with Rob this week.
I might just happen to know a thing or two about rocks. And so it pains me that we might not focus on that as much in this particular episode of Why Blank Lost. We'll talk about it just a little bit.
And the timing was set before the rock draw. We had no idea, but sometimes things just line up really well. So
or they don't. To talk Fate doesn't seem to like me sometimes.
Now, if you're wondering what the Survivor Academy podcast is, well, it's for patrons. It's for RHAP patrons. So be sure you become a patron if you're not already so that you can hear it. And there should be about a day and a half between when this podcast becomes available and when we record that podcast. So you can send in questions if you're listening in time and you see the question form on Twitter or RHAP. Right.
It will be quite fun. And we will teach you so much.
We will.
Hopefully.
But for now, we obviously have a bit to talk about, just a little teeny bit with Daniel and Chanel.
We're going right there, are we?
I mean, I want to first deal with the most controversial thing Daniel did, which was basically starting a Why Blank Lost podcast for himself in Tribal Council. So many people on Twitter had the same idea. It was just boom, 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 boom on my Twitter timeline.
Yes.
He's trying to take our job. What are you doing, Daniel?
He is. And you know what? He's not helping himself by taking our job. He's definitely not. You really don't want to start out by pointing out to everyone, I will not win season 42 because of X. Oh, okay. Thank you for clearing that up for us, Daniel. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, I will say if he said that as a tribute or a shout out, well, then I'm okay with it. And I, in fact, encourage it.
Sure. Absolutely. So, but it continued. There was lots of shout outs and tributes along the way.
Yeah. Now, he has taken, I'd say, a little bit of heat for how he handled the discussion after the tie. But
I can't believe you're starting there when you're talking about Daniel.
I mean, there's so many places we could start. So,
I know. How about him losing Mike's idol?
Oh, I forgot about that. It was.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to make you. We'll go back to your point
No, that's
in a minute
fine.
because
That's
we
fine.
do have to spend just a few minutes on this component of it. Because it was one of those situations that it's like comedy at its best. Mike loses it last week, and Danielle's giving him a bunch of guff about it. Like, how can I play with this guy? He doesn't even know where he put the idol. And then here we are. Now Danielle's lost it. And it's just like, how angry must you be if you're Mike that you gave over what is one of the potentially most powerful things you can have, as long as it gets turned on or used right or whatever it is that has to happen. And the guy loses it, like legit loses it. And I don't know where.
But I think the best part is he found the idol in the grass. He found the note in his crotch.
I know, in his pants. So like,
I mean,
what is
like,
happening?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know that was there. How did you not know that was there?
The whole thing fascinates me. And I'm very curious because I want to believe maybe he's trying to pull off like a David Wright kind of thing, where David Wright came across
absent-minded professor type of thing.
Yeah, like everyone was very curious about David as the season progressed, just with our interactions with him, because he started out so very confused and out of sorts and afraid and didn't know what to do. And then he turned into this mastermind. And I know I've mentioned this before, but I really did call him Kaiser Sose because it was so fascinating to see the change that occurred. And maybe that's what Daniel's doing. Maybe he's just pulling the wool over all of our eyes and he's setting us up. But
Daniel, I like you, but I don't think you're doing that.
No, I like him too. I think he's so likable and he's so enjoyable, but there are so many head scratching moments. And that was one of those moments where I thought, wow, he just lost someone else's idol.
He did have a good Twitter post on that, because he knew everybody had spent the week criticizing Mike, and he's over here going, hee.
Yes, and then, like, oh, snap, look what I just did. Yeah. So I just wanted, that was worth a mention. If we're going to be talking about Daniel, we need to at least talk about the fact that he did lose Mike's idol.
Yes.
Both in the grass and in his crotch.
Yes. So, and then he just hands it back over to Mike. If I were like, no, you can keep that now.
I'm telling you, it's nasty. It's just got to be nasty.
All right. So now we can fast forward to what I was talking about, which was the tie. And something I don't understand. Now, I can't say I listen to absolutely every single podcast, and I know that there will be more and some that are not out yet. But one question I have not heard addressed. Why did he even vote to create a tie the second time? He could have avoided everything that happened to him by just changing to Jenny at the revote. He knew there would only be 2 votes. He was not confused like Hai was. He was not confused as a goat on AstroTurf.
Look, I brought my own goat tonight.
Ah, yes. He knew what was going on with the votes. He knew it would just be him and Hai. Hai was not going to switch his vote. Why did Daniel not just switch his vote right then if he was just going to lay down and die anyway?
Well, and that's the part that I find the most confusing about it, because there would have been a reason for him to maintain steadfast, this is my vote, if he was going to then fight to maintain that vote and try to convince Hai that, hey, listen, this is what we need to do. And we have to vote out. We have to vote out Lydia, and this is why. But that's not what he ended up doing. And so it really doesn't make sense, because why create all of that extra drama and have to go through all of that and expose yourself entirely? And that's the other component that he then turned into this, hey, you want to see all of my cards? Because I'm going to put them all on the table and you're going to know exactly what I was playing, what I was telling this person and that person. And now he has no trust.
Yeah. And by the way, here's Chanel's cards too. I'm just going to give you her hand as well, and
he's just wrecked it across the board for himself and other people. And so he really could have not done any of that if he just said, oh, okay, I see what's happened. So yeah, this is it. We're just going to vote out Jenny, done and done. And for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe he'll explain it at some point.
Yes. And, once he did force the tie, again, there's already been a lot of talk about how he immediately gave up bargaining position by admitting he didn't want to go to Rocks. I mean, Hai got to play a game of chicken with someone who basically said, well, actually, my car automatically swerves to the right, so don't worry about it. Which meant Hai could say, yeah, I'm going full speed ahead.
Right. And I know I'm not going to delve into the Rock thing too much here, but I do think that as someone who went through that, the biggest fault I think that I did is not exactly what Danielle did, but like, you have to act like you've got like the biggest cojones, right? Like, yes, I am going for it. I will draw rocks. This is what I'm doing.
So you're saying not like that.
Yes. Don't do that. Don't do that because,
and for those listening, I was pointing to the picture of Jessica crying on the poster.
Yes. Crying with my rock.
Yes.
But because I really do think Hai was very confused when all of this was transpiring. And that could have been, right. It could have been a benefit to Daniel if he didn't then, as you said, lay down and die immediately. If he had stuck to his guns, I mean, like, this is what's happening. I think Hai's confusion might have taken away some of that power that all of a sudden he had, because he really was given all of the power in that moment. And Hai realized it and was like, okay, well, he said he's not going to, so guess what? I will. If he hadn't done that, it's so there's so many layers to this that just make it like nonsensical. It just really, I don't know why he progressed everything in the manner in which he did, because it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from that, you already referenced this, but I'm not feeling so great about my winner pick Chanel's chances after this episode.
Yeah. That was your winner pick. And who is mine?
Hold on.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Huh? Mine's looking so good.
Now, one reason I picked Chanel was because she said pregame, one of the best pieces of advice that I got coming out here was to be patient. A lot of people come into this game, they want to drive. They want to jump. They want to go. But you just wait a second, step back, and you let some things come to you. And then you work your magic with it. It'll really, really be advantageous versus running full steam ahead with your head down and not observing what's going on around you.
Or you just don't do any of that and you go full steam ahead.
Exactly.
And bang your head on everything along the way.
She did exactly the opposite. She knew not to risk her vote. Jenny said in interviews that her allies told Chanel, don't risk your vote.
Yep.
And I love this line that Jenny told Mike Bloom. It was kind of this, well, I don't want to insult her directly. She said, we just kept saying it would be stupid to lose her vote. And I mean, what else can I say? She lost her vote.
Yes, she did.
And she did it for the worst reason. She went with the big moves, thinking way too early in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another component to this is the fact that they have such a small tribe. You have 6 people, and knowing that the divisions in the tribe are basically 2, 2, 2, and that you happen to be paired up with the people that are floating in the middle, you need to be very mindful of those numbers.
And one of them has already lost his vote.
Right. So you can automatically find yourself in a majority just by having your vote, which is crazy that it's that simple.
Right.
That you just have to have your vote at tribal council.
Don't do anything and you're fine.
Right. Yes.
You keep your majority. And that's the thing. Rob was talking about it on either Know-It-Alls or the recap with Kim. I listened to them both, so in quick succession. But he was talking, I think it was with Kim. Anyway, he was talking about how, there's this thing where people want to rush, hurry. But being conservative is what allows, you to, being conservative is a bigger move. It's a smarter move.
Yes. And then you also avoid the ripple effect, because then we saw her come back and she was immediately scrambling because she was worried I might not have a vote. And if I don't have a vote, then I need to switch things up and I need to convince them to split their vote. So then that way we can still get the person out that we want, and we'll kind of trick them, which what happened? Hai went, no, wait a second. Yeah. This is not right. Yeah. And if she had just come back and hadn't done any of that, everything would have been easy peasy, the way that it was supposed to be. And nobody would have been figuring things out or trying to figure out why you're splitting the vote. And to me, again, it's one of those situations where I don't know if she got caught up in the moment and thought I outsmarted Omar. I don't know if that's what she thought, that somehow she had tricked him into her winning that whole risk the vote thing. I don't know.
Except she did it the opposite, because even worse than risking her vote, she risked her vote after telling Omar that she wasn't going to.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if she thought that she had like played this incredible mind game on him.
Instead, it was like another game of chicken, except Chanel said she was definitely turning and then smashed into Omar's oncoming car.
I love these. Well, wait, why are we talking about chicken? It should be bunnies.
Yeah, but you don't play a game of bunny. Then you just hop along. Or you sit in the mailbox eating dinner.
Apparently.
Yes.
Apparently that's what bunnies do.
Yes.
Yeah, no, the whole thing.
I want to know what drugs the Survivor producers were on when they came up with these.
I don't know. And I love watching the reaction. Like Marianne's reaction reading that is like, what the hell? What the fudge is this?
Yes,
right? Like, I mean, it's not even kind of something that you can work into a conversation. She got creative with it. So.
I have heard the goat on AstroTurf before. That was not new to me.
You've heard that.
I had heard that in reality before that.
Interesting.
You know, not often, but occasionally. The bunny in a mailbox. What?
I found one on Twitter.
So did I. Yeah. I slapped it into a TikTok. But yes.
Yeah. A little crazy. A little bit crazy.
Yeah.
So I think that the takeaway from all of this craziness is your winner pick, not so great. My winner pick, awesome.
For now. Just remember, you predicted my winner pick would get booted that episode. Ha! She didn't. She caused. She contributed to someone else getting booted.
She really did. I do think that this was such a fascinating episode because there were so many wrongs that continued to just be wrong, and then just continued to make things even more wrong.
It proves two wrongs don't make a right.
It's like
4.
Sometimes usually these episodes, there's like one thing where you're like, ooh, that's not good. Maybe they shouldn't have done that. And then this episode, you just kept going, ooh, no, what? Why you no, stop. It was like watching a train wreck. Like you couldn't look away, but it kept happening. It was so bad. Yeah, it was so bad. It was so good, but so bad.
Yes. Now, another topic I need to bring up is Stephen Fishback dissing me on know-it-alls regarding our debate on the wording of the beware advantage, because he wouldn't accept that he was wrong in a Twitter argument. Have you ever heard of a Twitter argument where the wrong person won't accept that they're wrong? That is unheard of.
Shocking, right?
I know. I mean,
crazy.
If it was poetry, fine. Listen to Stephen. But this was reading something akin to a regulation or a rule.
Yeah, you're big on rules.
Yes.
In case Stephen's forgotten. I
reminded him and he still wouldn't listen. So
I know.
Yeah.
It's so hard being right all the time, right?
I know.
David?
That's what I should have done. I should have just kept responding to him with that.
Yeah, David, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do think the wording is pretty clear.
No, it's not. It's horribly unclear. If that were a law, you would be hard pressed to enforce it.
I just want to get you worked up because it's so much more fun. See how easy it is?
Yes.
Jeez.
Jessica, you're wrong.
I know. This is what I have to work with, everyone. Yes. Such anger.
All right. Did we have anything else that I say we as if I'm asking myself? Did you have anything else that you want to discuss
I
now.
really do feel like a lot of those things we've just discussed are going to come up while we're talking about what happened.
Yes.
Because I don't think we can avoid it.
Oh, we can. We'll just dance through it. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to come up with my own saying, we'll dance through it like a bunny eating dinner on AstroTurf while eating a potato. I don't know.
And then yelling, fudge.
Yes.
I'm a potato.
We haven't even gotten to that yet.
I know. I keep waiting for the potato. So clearly, we know who gets that one.
Right.
So
we believe we do. Yes.
Well, we believe we do.
Right.
I mean, the editing is.
Yes.
Sometimes they're not so good at that.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, then before we move on to how Jenny did, we need to mention that the rules we're about to discuss come in a shorter and much more colorful version in
poster.
There it is. Poster form.
Mine's behind me. Lovely.
As is mine.
Mm-hmm.
But so if you want one behind you, in front of you, next to you, wherever.
All over.
Yeah. Papering your walls. Go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed. Scroll down to the poster and click it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you click that, you can go back to that page and scroll down some more, and you can see the poster t-shirt.
And buy it.
And sweatshirt and buy it. Yes. And you can see the newer, different version checklist t-shirt.
And you can buy that too.
Right. And mug, which obviously.
And you can buy that too.
Yes.
You can buy it all.
That's right.
And you should.
So again, yes, go to the robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed page.
And I will say that the shipping department is happy to announce that Australia is now accepting packages.
Oh, hey, all you Australians, run out and get it.
That's right. Now you can get it. I really am sorry to Andrew, who had to wait forever to get his poster, but we got it.
Yes.
It's out. It's done.
So heading into this podcast, I heard from a lot of people saying Jenny was screwed by the twists. And that wasn't just a bunch of texts from Jessica. While there were obviously twists in play here, we can't just blame the twists because
why can't we?
It was, I'm telling you, because it was up to the players to deal with them. And then the other players, like Jenny, had to deal with those players. It's all connected. In several cases, players had the necessary information and made the wrong choices. In other cases, maybe there was no reasonably better choice to make. Which was the situation for Jenny? Were there moves she should have made but didn't? What could she have done differently? It's time to figure out why Jenny lost. The first and most important rule talks about the need to scheme and plot. Coming into the season, Jenny said she'd watched all of the other seasons multiple times and looked at the gameplay and strategy and analyzed it from a big picture point of view for each player. So we know she understood what she needed to do. Then we saw she quickly aligned with Mike. She told Entertainment Weekly that they had a similar work ethic around camp. They shared a mindset about wanting to lead but holding back. And they were like-minded in many ways, even down to their interest in movies and music. And all that's great. But since she was a math whiz and could count all those triangles, she also should have known 2 is not a majority.
It's really not a majority. And I will say this too, part of her strategy coming into the game was acknowledging the fact that she would be playing with 17 other people. And you can't always know what 17 other people are going to do. And so you need to be mindful of that as you are determining how to play your game. And I do feel like even though that's a great, that is a great mindset to have going into it, realizing that I might have a plan, but that might jive with or not jive with what someone else's plan is, because everyone's going to have their own mindset when they walk into this game. And I feel like she forgot about that once she did actually get out there, because there were people that were playing different games, and she really held tight and strong to that one person that was very similar to her and the mindset that she had. And so I feel like this great idea she had coming in didn't really follow its way into the game.
Yeah. From the first episode, we heard that the tribe was broken down into duos of Jenny and Mike, Lydia and Hai, and Daniel and Chanel, who were in the middle of the other two. Except that it seems they were only in the middle in their own minds. And both of the other pairs thought Daniel and Chanel were with them. Right. We saw this before and during tribal council, because before everyone was sharing information with both Daniel and then Chanel when she got back. And then when the votes came out, Hai looked at Daniel and said, "When did I lose your trust?" Which suggests he thought he once had Daniel's trust.
Right. But Jenny talked a lot in her exit interviews about how she knew that Daniel was playing like kind of both sides, but didn't know how much, to what extent he was. Yeah. So she was leery of him in that way, but didn't fully comprehend it until she got to tribal council.
Right. And that's the thing is, I mean, she believed that she was tight enough with Daniel and Chanel to, trust them. And it turned out it was pretty true if things had gone the right way and everybody had their votes and stuff.
Right. Right.
But not true enough for Daniel to risk his life in the game over.
But he kind of did.
Well, his immediate life in the game. Let's put it that way,
Yeah.
I mean, she mentioned in interviews that, like you said, she realized in the debate how much Daniel had passed to Hai, which is also about when she realized she was doomed. So if he was never 100% with her, there was no way he was going to go to rocks for her.
Well, right. And I also feel like in her mind, if we kind of take a step back and say, okay, well, if she really thought that Chanel and Daniel were with her and Mike, and if she thought that Chanel did what was expected and didn't risk her vote, so Jenny quite possibly walked into that tribal council thinking, well, we at least have 3 votes and the other ones only have 2. Right. So we're okay.
We're fine.
And so if she was just kind of accepting that fact, then I think the realization that he wouldn't go to rocks for her probably happened in that very moment. Yeah. There was, I don't think that's a conversation that very many people would have with themselves out there. Like, oh, is this person willing to risk their entire game for me? Yeah, she certainly was a little cautiously optimistic that Daniel was like with them, but I don't know if he is fully. But yeah, then it just was all very clear.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. Nobody in Survivor should be willing to risk rocks at the tribe's first tribal council.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
Sorry, just no.
Right.
It's not the first time it didn't happen, but it happened in a South African version of Survivor, and at the time I thought they were crazy. So, but anyway, getting back to this situation, you have to ask, what about Hai and Lydia? Why wasn't she tighter with them? And she told Mike Bloom that Hai and Lydia just never wanted to work with her and Mike, and that Lydia would be, for example, fine in social situations, but then literally ran away if strategy came up.
I'm so curious about that.
I know,
she'd be like, no.
Yeah. Gone. I mean, yeah, because Jenny described it as if I was chasing her with an axe.
Yeah, like how is that even possible?
I picturing this, it's like, did you get this on video? I want to see it.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that really kind of I think came across in a lot of Jenny's exit press is that she is certainly a very strong individual, but I feel like she sounded in her mind like she was more strong than she actually showed of herself while she was out there. Like I kind of got that sense that, because I don't know, I feel like if someone's running away from me every time I want to try to talk strategy with them, I don't know, I just I think I might. And she did acknowledge that too, that she probably should have tried a little harder. So it is, and again, I mean, you have to be careful when you're interacting with people. You don't want to offend people. You don't want to push too hard, and you don't want to turn them off from the potential of working with you. But if it's so very clear that there's an issue, I think that's the type of thing you really need to like go at it with them. Be like, hey, listen, I can't help but notice. Is there a chance? Yeah. I don't know.
And I mean, it's like you were reading off my notes there, but Yeah, I don't know. I feel like pushing harder when you believe you're in a 4-2 majority already. Why bother? You know, they've made it clear they don't want to work with you.
And that's, but also if you are concerned that maybe you don't have these other two as much as you want.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was exactly where I was going, was back to what you said. If you're suspicious of Daniel, then maybe you don't have a 4-2. And you need to maybe dig into that.
Yeah.
So you know you've lost this other person over here. You know you've lost also High because he won't give you anything. Well, fine. If you're suspicious that Daniel might not be on your side, then what you need to do is dig into that.
Yeah.
You dig into that, and then you bring that information to High. Yeah. And you say, High, I can tell you've been a little leery of me. And, you know, we haven't really, but I want to let you know things that you have, you know, I have found out that Daniel has been telling both of us this. He's been playing both of us.
And it sounds like she tried to do that, but towards the end, when all of a sudden there was like some name dropping happening.
Yeah, but by that time she was like the only person who could, I mean, it was after the tie.
Right. Oh, no. Right. But that's like, it was a little too late. Like,
yes.
Did she also mention though, like having this conversation before they went to tribal council, or was it only at tribal council?
I think it was at tribal council where High was saying things like, well, Daniel, you told me this. And she's like, oh crap, I didn't know. I'm sorry. Oh, shiz. I didn't know that
oh, fudge. What is happening?
Yeah. That you know, he was, you know, telling High all this stuff.
But I do feel like there was some discussion about her trying to she wanted to get names dropped, that so then she could go back and say, well, to High, Daniel actually said your name. I don't know. Maybe
it's possible. Yeah, I don't know.
Misreading something or misremembering.
So anyway, yeah, that's basically what she could have done differently here for rule 1.
Right.
Now the second rule says not to scheme and plot too much. Keep your scheming secret. Certainly didn't seem, considering we just said, here's what you should have done to scheme more. It didn't seem like she schemed too much. A couple of her alleged allies did, but not her.
But she was also in a very obvious duo.
That is true. As they all were, you know.
Right.
But yes, that's a very good point. Being in an obvious duo puts you in a bad spot. And yeah, even if you're in a tribe of 3 obvious duos, it doesn't allow you to float freely or float freely, depending on how you want to say it.
And I feel like what ends up happening too is people don't then look at, like, they didn't just look at Jenny. It was Jenny and Mike. Okay, so who do we need to vote out, Jenny or Mike? You become a pair, and the decision is no longer Jenny and maybe Lydia, like it turned out to be. Like, those aren't the discussions people are having, because they're like, okay, out of these 2, if you are one of the opposite pairs, you're looking at another pair going, okay, so you're automatically limiting the choices that you have because you've aligned yourself with one person so strongly. And of course, no one's going to go to Jenny and be like, hey, Jenny, you want to vote out Mike? Because they know that they're like this. So it certainly limits all of your options. And when you only have 6 people in a tribe, boy, you need to have so many more options.
Right. And that could be, for all we know, maybe Lydia didn't like Mike. And that's why, because she knew that you know, that Jenny and Mike were so linked that she didn't want to talk to Jenny.
Right.
You know,
very possible.
Like you just said, nobody's going to talk to her when they know that she's just going to tell Mike everything.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, the third rule tells players to be flexible. Now, you just described one area where she wasn't flexible. Other than that, how do you think she did here?
I don't think she did great. I really don't. And I say that just because this was something that we all kind of saw. I say all. It was something that we talked about in the pregame, like just kind of looking at the people who are presented to us on this tribe. You do have the 2 older individuals immediately coming together and becoming very tight. And she said why. They had a lot of things in common. The music, other things that they could connect over, their work ethic, their families. And when you go out and play this game, you are looking for those things. You are looking for those similarities so you can make a connection. But I don't think she tried hard enough to make those connections with the people that she didn't automatically kind of connect with. She said she tried socially. She was talking to Lydia, but sometimes you have to, it's kind of like fake it till you make it when you get out there and you're talking to people, and you really have to be interested in what maybe a 22-year-old. Right. Exactly. You got to lean in.
Yeah.
Be real interested, because, you know, and that's possibly why Lydia could have not been interested, because maybe Jenny was presenting herself more as a mother figure to Lydia as opposed to an equal. And if you're making someone not feel like they're equal, then they might not want to play the game with you. So I'm just curious if she could have done better in trying to remember what she said coming into the game, that 17 other people are playing this game and they're all going to be playing it differently. Yeah. And I don't think she was as mindful of that as she should have been.
Yeah. And that's, you know, a very interesting point. One thing that I want to add is she said in interviews, well, I don't think Mike and I came together so quickly because of age. But then she listed off all those things, which are a result of age. You share an interest in movies and music because you're of a similar age. You know, I don't share an interest in movies and music with someone my son's age in most cases. Or someone my father's age. You know, I share it with people who are around my age. Now, technically, I'm not getting together with that person because we're the same age, but it's essentially that.
Things just kind of happen. And when you're out there and you're talking and you like that too? Oh, so do I. And you just end up making a connection with someone. And I think that in someone like in my situation, I probably wasn't as much of an issue when the game started, because we were all, you know, Gen Xers. But when you were all old, yeah, we're all old. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate that. But when you do have such a disparity in age, and that's the group that's coming together, and it is a small group, you are going to just have a natural tendency to kind of lean into those people who are more similarly situated as you are. Whether or not you want to do that, it's kind of just a common thing. And so I do think that even though she says, oh, that wasn't why Mike and I ended up hitting it off, I think that's a huge reason why they ended up hitting it off.
Right. Yeah, and it's just natural.
Right.
So, all right, we can move on to the fourth rule, which tells players not to let their emotions control them. Now, I think Jenny did fine here. We didn't see anything that I noticed indicating she made any decisions for emotional reasons. Did you see any issues here?
No, this was the one thing that I must say was very impressive about Jenny is I did really like kind of like her, I'm going to just say her aura. I don't really know how else to describe it, but I do think that she certainly presented herself in a way that was just, it was likable regardless of whether or not she hit it off with certain people. There was nothing about her that I mean, I was guessing the age thing, like maybe Jenny treated Lydia like more of a mom figure. I don't know. We didn't see that. I'm just guessing based upon age. But yeah, there really wasn't anything that made me think that she was too emotional and not really thinking things through. She seems like a very logical person. And I think that a lot of the decisions that she was trying to make were logical, even though some of them might have been rooted in emotion in a way, because that was the natural tendency. I don't think that was the deciding factor for her.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, the fifth rule is about the social game and reminds players they need to pretend to be nice. I don't think Jenny had to do much in the way of pretending, but she just seems to be a really nice person. Coming into the game, I said in our preview podcast, it looked like Jenny would be relying on her social game. And in post-game interviews, she said so much of camp life isn't just about strategic talk. It's about how well you bond with people. And she specifically referenced that she and Chanel did not hit it off right away, but she worked her basically and swayed her over in those first few days. She also told Dalton Ross that she got along with everyone and added that even though she wasn't strategically with Hai and Lydia, all of them were having fun out there and they tried to keep camp life light.
Yeah. And this is an interesting component of Survivor that I don't think gets talked about enough, is that you can have a really great social relationship with someone, but you can have a non-existent strategic relationship with someone. And I think Jenny is a perfect example of someone that did that, and how it put such a hindrance on her ability to move forward in this game, because the strategic component, especially when you have such a small tribe, becomes so significant. And if you don't have that type of relationship with someone, they are not going to see you as someone necessarily wanting to move forward with you in the game, because you're not offering them any benefit. You might have a nice friendship with them, which is likability is certainly a thing. But if you don't have the game mindset that you need to have with this person, it puts you really in a bad place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that was something we talked about even with Tiffany and Voce. You know, they got along great, but they weren't on the same page strategically.
Right. Exactly. Tiffany, Voce. Hi.
All right.
Oh, well, she's getting another shout out. It's coming. Just wait.
Oh, okay. Well, the sixth rule warns against being too much of a threat. And while Jenny showed she certainly knew how to handle a puzzle, that didn't have anything to do with her getting voted out. Instead, the threat was, if anything, of a strategic nature, as in Hai controlled the vote. She wasn't Hai's ally. If he flipped on Lydia, he knew he was next. Therefore, she has to go. I mean, you know, that's the threat equation in that situation.
It's a good equation. I like that.
Yeah.
We have to take just a moment about that puzzle. Okay. Because it was something that she talked about in her exit press. And I'm telling you, when I read this, I about fell over, because when they were talking about this puzzle, she was saying, "Thank you guys. You can do it. Can you just step back?" Mike and I are just standing there looking at each other, shaking our heads. I said, "I could do it." And they're still at 11 triangles.
11.
So for all of the guff that we gave Jonathan, apparently 11, that's all they kept coming up with. She mentioned 11 again later.
This is why I didn't understand. If anyone who watched our first podcast with Tiffany kept saying 11, 12, 13. That's what I didn't understand. They never got past 11.
They never got past 11.
Tiffany was giving them too much credit. That's why I was so confused. Like, why do you keep going past 11?
Well, that cracked me up when I saw that. I was like, well, look at that. It wasn't just Jonathan that got to 11. It was the entire Vati. Is that how we decided their name was said? The Vati tribe was also at 11. And Jenny was like, stop it. She was the Omar of the tribe. Was like, I'm at 36. Go away. So 11. There you go. Tiffany, that's for you.
Yeah. Now, even though going back to the threat thing.
Sorry, I got sidetracked.
No, that's okay. Even though, or even before it came down to the standoff, there were still only two choices for Hai and Lydia, because again, they thought Daniel and Chanel were with them.
Yeah.
So up to this point, I will say, Daniel and Chanel, you did a great job up till this point. Everybody, both pairs thought you were with them.
Yeah, you made it 7 days before your entire game blew up.
Yeah, I mean, it was, unfortunately, when you actually had to vote was the problem. But,
right, yeah, that became an issue.
But so then you had the choice, or they had the choice of Jenny and Mike. And I think they would say Jenny posed a bigger strategic threat.
Yes, and I will say that is something that is worth noting, because I know there was some discussion about whether or not it was Mike was stronger and they wanted to keep the tribe strong, and that's why they wanted to keep Mike. And that's certainly a thing. But if you are also thinking long term, you also have to think about, well, what normally happens when you get to a merge, the people who are the physical threats become the ones that are more easily voted out sooner. And so someone like Jenny, if she gets to the merge, she's not necessarily right. She might not be a physical threat, but boy, she's going to work her way through there, because she's clearly very, good at puzzles. And if she's trying to work various angles, I do think that she's someone that could have slid her way through more easily, because she's not going to be as out there as a Mike might be.
Right. All right, we can move to the 7th rule, which covers idols and advantages. There's nothing to discuss here. There were no advantages or anything. It also covers navigating twists. Sorry. For her part, Jenny made the right decisions. She told Mike Bloom that when she came back from Shipwheel Island, she told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth of what happened. She knew even then she needed her vote, as we discussed earlier, and she had to play it safe. She came clean. I don't think anyone suspected anything. I don't think people were like, ooh, she may have something. We need to vote her out.
Yeah.
On top of that, by coming clean, she gave Chanel all the information she needed to make the correct decision.
Yes.
So Jenny
did all that Chanel, right.
Yes.
And she reminded Chanel before she went out there, like, you need to play it safe.
Yes.
Don't lose your vote. Yeah.
Yes. So Jenny did everything right. Certain other people
didn't do anything right.
Not so much. Yeah.
And I really do think that, because I am curious too with this whole, like, the timing of everything, because there was one interview where she said she never even got a chance to talk to Chanel.
Yeah. It was another 5-minute thing that happened with Evie last season.
Yeah, because she had to go do a confessional. And this is where I really don't like this. There's a lot of things about Shipwheel Island and the advantages that I think are problematic. But when you are then cutting into the gameplay component because people just don't have enough time, that I think that's bad. That's not okay. Like, I have a very big problem with that, because that could potentially have shifted everything. If she had had one conversation with Chanel, maybe she would have gotten a read from Chanel. Like, I don't think Chanel has a vote. And then I don't know if she could have done anything, but I just don't think that it's fair if they are bringing them back so close in time and limiting the conversations, because we've already talked about how Chanel came back and presented herself in such a fashion where it was like, we got to do this, because she didn't have any time.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Part of the reason she was so frazzled could have been she didn't have time, and she knew she had to come up with this plan because, I mean, I don't know. She goes in not planning to risk her vote. She says she's not going to risk her vote. She gets there and risks her vote. And then on the boat back, she's like, I lost my vote.
Right. Now I got to explain this to everybody. And I got like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I will say, when, we would get done tribal and come back, we knew that we had some time because you were always waiting for, like, the sun was going to start setting. And so, like, we always kind of had some time. But we didn't have like 5 minutes, we didn't have 10 minutes, and then they're grabbing you for a confessional. So then people can't even talk to you. That is very, very unfair to the players.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, all right. Well, we can move past that to Appendix A, which is about the tribe keeping their end goals in mind when voting. And we talk about voting out the weak, then the strong, then the weak, then the strong. Here is where I think we get a little bit of a hint as to why High was against Mike and Jenny. And this is something so I obviously can't watch or read every single interview. So maybe there's one out there that addresses us. I wish someone would have asked about what High said, because he mentioned the two of them, Mike and Jenny, emphasizing tribal strength. We didn't see that. I put 2 calls out on Twitter. Nobody came back and said, yeah, we saw it. So, the point, High's point being something we've said before. If there's people saying we need to keep the physically strong people, even if they're not pointing at you this time, and you're not physically strong, they'll be pointing at you next time. So you got to nip that in the bud.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this is the other part of why the duos become an issue, because he's linked to Lydia. And if they're saying Lydia's the weak one, guess who's left? Guess who's next?
Right.
That means it's High.
Because clearly, I mean, the weak one is the guy whose shoulder keeps popping out.
Yes. 100%. Without a doubt.
If you're basing it solely on strength and weakness. But what they were really doing was basing it off of, well, if we go along with what High said, they were basing it off of who's not aligned with me and weak. Which, I mean, is what they should be doing, honestly. They, they should be aligned for allies first, and then from there.
Right.
But the one thing I will mention, because we didn't get an interview, we didn't get, whatever, we didn't get it on TV. We don't actually know if the whole thing about them wanting strength was real, a misunderstanding, or if maybe Daniel purposely fed Hai misinformation.
Yeah.
I mean, I lean towards real, but I wouldn't put it past Daniel to make sure the two sides stayed going against each other.
Right.
As far as misunderstanding, we know that whether or not it was true for challenges, it seems from Jenny's interviews that at least around camp, she and Mike were doing most of the work. So that could have been associated with this strength idea.
Right. Sure.
Whether, if she said it or not. So yeah, somewhere for whatever reason, this is what Hai believed. And so, if the tribe was trying to vote out the weak and, he knew that he was there, he had to fight against it. And suddenly he had a majority of one.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of the strength situation is when it came to that decision between voting out Mike and Jenny. And she told Mike Bloom, I do believe it was about keeping Mike's strength over my puzzle skills. That was more important to the group at the time. Hai and Lydia did not bond with Mike any more than they did with me. It was really just, how do we keep the tribe as strong as possible and get out one of the people who are not in our alliance? So again, for Hai and Lydia, the not in our alliance part, most important, but also keeping strength. So even though Hai was saying, I'm going after you because you want to keep strength, he wanted to keep the stronger of the two as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
All very good points.
Yeah. And again, alliance is key because everybody thought they weren't good with Daniel, who otherwise would have been the obvious choice, but he was
in such a good position.
Yes. Was.
Oh my goodness.
A very important 3-letter word. Yes.
Yes.
So, well, it's about time to wrap things up. So, what are your final thoughts, Rockstar?
That's right, I am. So, in Jenny's pregame press, she said, I love when you surprise Jeff and he goes, wow. And she laughed. I want to get a wow reaction out of him. And I do think that she pulled that off, not by anything she did, but because of the actions of others. We saw a whole lot of Jeff Probst probably saying, wow, when he was watching all of that craziness unfold at Tribal Council. And unfortunately for Jenny, I think she found herself the consequence of a lot of other people's bad choices, the wrong choices, and the wrong way to approach the game. However, there were things that Jenny did that certainly added to her own demise, as we've discussed. I do think that Jenny kind of locked herself in too quickly with Mike and cut off her ability to really play strategically with the other people that were on her tribe. Although she might have had a relationship with them on the friendly side, strategically, she was very limited. And so I think when you automatically put yourself in that box and you don't realize that 2 is not the majority of 6, you need to make sure you have that majority. It can't be a question. Jenny knew that there was a chance that they didn't have Daniel, which means you didn't have Chanel because they were the other duo. You need to know 100% who's in lockstep with you. And she didn't know that. She was thinking, maybe, kind of, sort of, I think we're okay. You can't go into a tribal council with that mindset, especially knowing that your other half doesn't have a vote. And especially knowing that Chanel might not have a vote as well. And so now you're really in a tough spot. And so I do think that Jenny, unfortunately, found herself in a position where no survivor should be, where you're up against the people you're playing with and also the advantages that they keep adding to the goddamn game. Just going to say it.
How would Marianne say that?
She would say
the gosh darn game.
The gosh darn game, fudge this stuff. right? Like,
Yes.
just
Fudge this shiz.
I can't bring myself to say shiz. It's just not okay. I'm sorry. I'll stick with fudge. You can say shiz. Anyway, so Jenny, I do think that we missed out a lot of what Jenny could have brought to this game. I loved how she presented herself in that challenge with the triangles. She was certainly someone who knew how to take control, but quietly take control, which I do think could have really carried her through after Emerge. So it's unfortunate that we don't get to see her cunningly take over things without people really seeing it, because she couldn't get past the very essence of this game, which is you really need to figure out where everybody is at before you get to tribal council. You can't be learning this information at tribal council. And one of the things she said in her exit press was she was questioning, how did Hai not know something? Well, the same can be said about Jenny. There was things that came out in tribal council that she didn't know either. So you got to go in knowing everything. And if you don't, you can find yourself in a position like Jenny. And that is unfortunately going home because they didn't go to Rocks.
Yes. All right. Well, we've gone through all the rules, and nothing has jumped out in terms of things she's done horribly wrong. She told Mike Bloom, there's not much else I could have done differently. And normally when I hear that, regular listeners know I'll just roll my eyes, because there's almost always something a person who loses could have done differently. In this case, we've mentioned a couple things. She could have not been in a tight duo, and which would have allowed her to play, more freely. And she could have realized that Daniel was playing in the middle and therefore could flip on her. But when you're going to your first tribal council, you don't have much to go on. You believe Daniel, you believe Chanel. And, and the thing is, they were on her side. That's the other thing. They really didn't flip on her. They flipped to say, or Daniel flipped to save himself. He was with her until it meant putting his own neck on the line. And then he was correctly only concerned about himself. Jenny herself told Gordon Holmes, it was about strategy and alliances, not camp life or puzzles or whatever. And she was right. Jenny, you're right. She was targeted by Hai and Lydia, a duo who both actually had votes. And because they were not aligned, and Hai felt like she and Mike were coming for him and Lydia, and he was right. They all got along, but just like we discussed last week with Mariah, when you get to tribal council, you have to cut someone. This wasn't about her being too good at puzzles or too weak in physical challenges, though it was apparently connected to her and Mike's focus on strength, along with her being weaker than Mike. All of these things combined made her one of two targets, and then the actions of her supposed allies sealed the deal. And that is why Jenny lost.
Good to go.
Yes. All right. Well, before we get to our predictions, let me remind... I'm going to take a screenshot of that later. Let me remind everyone that the rules we just discussed are available in poster and t-shirt and mug
and everything,
sweatshirt. You name it, it's available. So again, go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed.
Yes, please do.
So predictions. Last week, as I mentioned, you predicted Chanel would be voted out. Instead, she just helped get Jenny voted out.
She did a bang up job on that, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. She did. I still don't think Jonathan's tribe will go back to tribal council before merge. And this week sure didn't do anything to change my mind. I mean, Superman out there.
Oh my word! We didn't even talk about Jonathan.
It just occurred to me. Yeah, how did we not talk about Jonathan?
Let's just take a moment, everyone.
Oh, I'm going to lean back and let you talk.
Yeah, let's just think about that for just a moment. Lord have mercy. What is even happening? And how did he come up? I was discussing him recently, and I'm not sure how, but it was one of those, like, he's been such a pleasant surprise because although he looks the way that he does, and that's lovely, he's also very like enjoyable. Like he's nice to listen to. Like he seems to be getting along with everyone really well. Like he's nice social connections. Like very unexpected to see that that side of him in addition to the abs and the shoulders and the arms and all of that stuff. Anyway, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
All right. Well, okay, Jessica, you recover from that. I'll just keep going here. Yeah. It would be interesting to see that tribe because there's only 2 people who can vote.
Right. I have a theory.
Go for it.
Well, there's 14 people left, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's 14 people left.
Yes.
So if they're going to do anything wonky like they did last time, was it 6 and 6 and 2? Was that the breakdown?
I do not remember.
I'm curious.
I feel like it was more tribal councils than this, though, because we knocked down one of the tribes to just 2 people. Right,
but we lost Jackson.
Yeah, but that would have been a tribal council. That they would have had 2 tribal councils in that first episode.
Okay. I'm just wondering, like, I have to. Okay, Twitter peeps who are listening, how many were left before?
It's got to have been 5 and 5 and 2, not 6 and 6 and 2.
Not in 6 and 6 and 2.
Yeah,
5
I think
and 5
there's still 2 more. I think there's 2 more votes.
That's true, because then we have to get to the merge, and it's usually 12. Okay,
right.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Or the fake merge, and then the real merge. Yeah.
And then the whole, we're going to actually take away immunity, even though you win immunity, and that's not what Survivor's about, but that's what we're going to do. Okay, great. I'm so looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. That was my favorite part. So,
anyway,
people who are just listening are like, wait, what happened? Did their mics go dead for 10 seconds amazing. There? No, it was, yeah. So anyway, I don't see Jonathan's tribe going. So it's either this tribe again or Ika. Last week, I said Ika would lose. And once again, they just barely, by probably seconds, didn't. I don't think they can keep that up. So I'm going to predict again, you keep predicting the same thing again, eventually it'll happen, that Ika goes to tribal council. Now, last week, I predicted that Drea would be booted. But in the preview, we saw Roxroy, again, being kind of a jerk, a bossy jerk.
Yeah.
However, there is the factor of Hubicki's law, which says Roxroy should therefore be safe because he was featured as being a jerk. Not that Hubicki was a jerk, just featured as being a likely boot. The only way I see Roxroy as being safe is if he sticks with Romeo and Drea. And we also saw that Swathi seems to be mostly with him. That only leaves one person left on the tribe. So I'm going to revert back to my 2-week-old prediction that Tori is booted next episode.
Interesting. I'm not going to agree with you.
How dare you?
I know. So I
just better not say Chanel again.
Oh, I think I might just say Chanel again. Because think about it. All right. There was a lot, obviously, that happened this week with Vati. We learned a lot about everyone who plays on that tribe. And if there's one thing we learned about Daniel is he's very good at manipulating people over here and then screwing it up over there. But I think the relationship that he has with Hai and Lydia will be salvageable in the short term. But I think Chanel is going to find herself in a very difficult spot because I don't feel like she's got that same salvageability that like Daniel would have with Hai and Lydia. And Mike is going to do whatever he's told to do at that point because he's really kind of running solo, really. Yeah. But they're going to want to keep Mike because Mike is their strongest person on the tribe. I think Chanel is going to find herself in a very, very difficult spot because I think what we saw Chanel do was turn her back on everybody. You know, she was kind of like, hey, don't lose your vote. Don't lose your vote. And she was like, I'm doing that. I'm going to do exactly what you told me not to do. Whereas I think Daniel could like kind of justify to be like, well, I was kind of keeping my options open. I was listening to everyone, and I was going to make some determinations as the game went forward. And he was very clear in the tribal council to make sure that I have not lost you. Like, trust me, right? Like, we're okay. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think if you're high and Lydia, you're going to say yes to anything.
Oh, of course you are. Of course you are.
I do think a difference was in the way they handled it. Daniel handled it very cordially.
Yes.
Chanel got fudging pissed.
Yes. And so this is why I think going back, she's going to be mad at Daniel, which is then going to, it's kind of going to reverberate, and he's going to say, see, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I just think she's going to end up being in a bad spot because he called her out as much as he did. I think it's going to be Chanel. Yeah,
I mean, I can't disagree too much, because I think what she needs to do is on the boat ride back, when you can't talk to anyone, she needs to center herself and calm down.
Right.
And then as soon as they get back, she needs to grab Hai and Lydia and go off, and just, and not go off, but go off together.
Right.
And calmly say, I don't know what the hell Daniel was talking about. This is what happened.
Right.
She needs to beat Daniel to the punch.
Yes. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Exactly. No. I don't think it's going to happen.
Nope.
Another thing that does actually argue against my own prediction is we still haven't seen the Ika idol found.
I'm a potato.
Yeah. And if the previews are correct and Tori finds that, then presumably Mike would then activate his portion of it also, if all of them are being done. And he might need it now. So they would have to blindside Tori for her not to use it. I do think that's possible. I think Tori thinks very highly. Keep convincing yourself. I'm going to try.
Convincing yourself.
Yeah. I do think Tori thinks very highly of herself. I have been surprised at how sarcastic she has been in the game. It hasn't been, we haven't seen a ton of it, but in like in that tribal council where she was like, oh gosh, I just must not remember that. And Jeff's like, make sure I understand, you're being sarcastic, right? And then later when Drea comes to tell them about her advantage, and she's like, and Drea says, I think we should do a women's alliance. And Tori's like, oh, that idea just occurred to you?
Yeah.
You know, so Tori needs to rein in that sarcasm a little bit. But anyway,
you've convinced yourself. Keep doing it.
I'll just, yes, you know,
Chanel, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm always wrong, so it's okay.
Let's hope. All right. Well, as we wrap things up, I want to encourage people to check out the RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron.
Right.
You get access to shows like Survivor Academy.
Oh my gosh.
So hurry up and join so you can listen to us again.
You're going to love it.
I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to listen to us again?
Exactly.
Because we will be talking about, there won't be rules. Jessica,
I know.
I won't be able to tell Jessica, stay in order. It'll just be whatever questions viewers, listeners ask.
It's going to be so lovely. I don't have to follow the rules.
You have to follow the rules. But so, yeah.
The order
of
the rules.
That's true. So, yes, again, robhasawebsite.com/patron, or guess what? You can get it on the YX Lost Feeds page too.
Yes.
Besides the Survivor Academy, there's the Patron 5 for 5. There's early access to some podcasts, and there's more. And of course, when Rob isn't talking directly to everyone, there are the Facebook groups and Discord to keep you occupied with a great community of people, including both of us. So you can support shows like ours, everything in the network, by, again, becoming a patron.
Yes, you should definitely do that. And you should also follow us both on Twitter. I am at Jessica Lewis 89. And he is, I have to go. Oh, I got it. He is at David Bloomberg. Everyone who watches us probably is wondering why we're like always so proud of ourselves.
Yeah, look, we can point. Wow.
Everything's backwards, okay?
Yes, we never
it's
know.
all flipped.
When you see me do this to point to the poster, that's why.
Everything's flipped. But yeah, so you should definitely follow us both because David Bloomberg likes to pretend like he's faster with the tweets than I am.
Excuse me, I actually pointed out that I was.
I know. Okay, listen. All right. Can we
You didn't even respond, by the way.
I didn't.
You were just
you want to
like,
know why?
What the hell with you?
I was watching the damn show.
Yes,
you
so was I.
Are clearly watching my Twitter feed going,
I watch everything. I watch everything.
Listen, all right. It's too much. It's too much. So you should definitely follow us both so you can listen to David praise himself about how he's right about, I don't know, a tweet that he gets out.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Obviously.
I'm at Jessica Lewis 89. He's at David Bloomberg. And he's also very big on TikTok.
Oh, yes.
He loves his TikTok.
I'm huge. Yes. So yeah, follow me at David_Bloomberg on TikTok. What?
I just got a great idea.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
Listen, you're always looking for TikTok ideas.
Yes,
right?
I am.
I feel like you really haven't really grabbed onto TikTok for what it offers you.
What do you think? I'm going to do dances or something?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. Nobody wants to see that. My kids would disown me. My kids would disown me.
No, listen. You need
I posted one where I rang a bell. What more do you want from me?
I want to see some TikTok dances.
No, that's not happening. So, so with that assured, go to David_Bloomberg on TikTok. I've been doing a bunch of Survivor. No, I've done a bunch of Survivor TikToks. And I don't know what other show is going to be on that I can do it because I rang the bell on Beyond the Edge.
So this is why you need to start.
No,
dancing.
I am not dancing. And
listeners, do you want to see David Bloomberg do TikTok dances?
No, nobody wants to see that. And also, of course, you can follow me on Instagram where I'm David.E.Bloomberg and I copy everything like a day later there.
Yeah, you should do dances.
No, I'm not doing dances. And anyway, make sure you're subscribed to all of the RHAP Survivor podcasts by, again, hey, guess what? Going to our YX Lost feed page. You'll find great content like the Know-It-Alls, Taryn Stockwatch, Sharon Gus's Survivor International. This week, they're doing a combined mega podcast, so that should be interesting. And much more.
And can I say thank you now?
You can always say thank you.
All right. So thank you so much to Scott St. Pierre for all of the incredible editing that he does, not only for the Why Blank Lost podcast, but also all of the podcasts on RJP. Thank you, Scott, for all of the incredible work that you do. And also thank you to Will from America for the theme song that is so lovely and catchy. And you can hear it at the beginning of every podcast. So thank you so much for that, Will. And also thank you, David, for another incredible Why Blank Lost podcast with me.
Aw. Well, and thank you, Jessica, for not having a bunny rabbit in a mailbox as a prop, because that would have,
Listen, I should have. And if people could have heard us before we started this podcast, there was a whole lot of bunny rabbit talk.
There was a lot of bunny rabbit talk. We came up with a lot of phrases that should never be said.
Exactly, but it made us laugh a lot. So
yes.
Thank you, CBS, for the constant ability to create new, funny catchphrases.
Yes, ridiculous catchphrases. Yes. Yes.
So next time you see a bunny eating dinner in a mailbox, just know it's a thing.
That's right. It's a thing, and feed it some fudge. Now, normally, I would say right now, by closing out, I would say see you next week. But we'll see you in less than 2 days for Survivor Academy.
That's right.
And then
we're ready to learn.
That's right. And then we'll see you in a week.
I'm a much better teacher than he is.
No. Well, everybody can determine that when they watch or listen, not watch, listen.
Listen.
All right. We will see you then. Bye.
Bye.